Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Catholic Libertarian. I have a guest coming on in a few minutes, but I want to say a few things first before we get started. Coming up in September, I have a lot of guests that I am super excited about. Let me just read them all for you. The Bow Tie Catholic from TikTok. We're talking about a series of socialism and capitalism by Hans and Hopper. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. I got Stefan Gonzalez coming on to explain intellectual property like I'm a 5-year-old. So that's going to be super exciting because I get to, be my natural self. 5. Base Topian, the guy from Twitter everyone loves. He's coming on to talk about getting libertarianism right. So that's going to be a really exciting conversation. Popular Liberty, everyone loves to hate on that guy, but I love him. He's going to be coming on to talk about Hoppy and Covenant style communities in the Old Testament. And so that's going to be a really exciting, really long conversation, I hope. So Bishop, talking about the betrayal of the American right. Really good book. I was surprised. I'm like, this is one of my favorite Rothbard books, probably because it's amazing. Adam Patrick is coming on, most likely. We're still working at the details, but he's probably coming on. That's going to be a fun one. Jared from hoppyin.org and Democracy on Twitter. He's coming on to talk about democracy, the God that failed. So that's going to be I'm excited for that one. My friend Isaac from Twitter. I wish I had that right now in front of me, but he is an incredible guy on Twitter. I love him. I love his Twitter. Matt Erickson coming back on, talking about a short history of man. That podcast was a lot of fun. I can't wait to talk to him again. I know better this time. I'm not going to say 30 minutes. I'm going to tell him at least an hour and a half because it's hard to only have a short conversation with that dude. Pete Quinones from Freeman Beyond the Wall. He's going to talk about the atheist problem of libertarianism. So, that's going to be a real fun one because I got a lot to say about that. Because I block heavy on Twitter. If you're an atheist and you're a libertarian, I block you. I'm done. I don't want to. If you say God is an authoritarian and spaghetti monster, you're embarrassing yourself, and I'm embarrassed to be associated with you. So I'm not dealing with it. Jason Stapleton from Most Powered Influence. Yeah, he's coming on to talk about his ebook, Nomadic Wealth Formula. So go get that ebook. It's free. Go read it and get ready for the podcast because it's going to be incredible. And last, I got Jose Yalizan from No Way Jose coming on. He's going to explain agorism like I'm a 5-year-old. So that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a very exciting month of podcast. So please like, share, subscribe, get everything out there. Tell your friends because it's going to be I'm excited for this month. I hope you're excited for this month. I'm working on a few more things. Going to try to start doing more literary books instead of economic books. We're going to try to do some Leo Tolstoy. I'm going to try to do Homer by the Iliad by Homer. That's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm thinking about it, but I'm not sure. I might try to start doing more theological kind of conversations. Right now I'm working my way through Covenant and Communion and Angels and the Saints by Scott Hahn. And so those are really good books. And I'm going to try to start doing some more Catholic theological episodes because this is the Catholic Libertarian show. So I've had a lot of libertarianism, not a lot of Catholicism. So I hope you stick around and subscribe for that. I'm setting up the affiliate link so I can start trying to make some money off of this. So if you're thinking about doing Liberty Classroom, don't yet. Wait for me to get the affiliate link set up and try to help you get me some money. You get a great classroom. If you haven't done Liberty Classroom yet, it's incredible. I do it. I love it. It's how I learn a lot because I am a very visual guy. I have to see it to learn it sometimes. And this is a great way to really learn the right history because we can't trust government indoctrination camps to do it right. Well, it's giving me about that time. I'm going to go ahead and send the invite to Christpilled. If you don't follow this guy on Twitter, you're missing out. I mean, he is a blast to follow. This is a cool guy all around. I'll put his ad in the description so you can go follow him. He's a smart dude. I think you're going to really enjoy this conversation. It's his first time doing a podcast. He was a little nervous probably. But I think he's going to do great. I know he's going to do great because he's a smart dude. It's going to be a lot of fun. Why we wait for him to show up? Because it's I sent the invite a little bit early because I started a little bit early. Let's talk about post-libertarianism and this whole thing. A lot of people misunderstand what I think post-libertarianism is. Doesn't saying it's like when some people say Hans Hermann Hoppe is a post-Marxist because he moved past it into libertarianism. I don't think that applies. Like, I think he left Marxism for libertarianism. Post-libertarianism is post in the sense that you're going past something. You have moved through it to get past it, and now you are post-libertarian. They still have Austrian economics. They still have libertarian goals, I would say, but not libertarian principles, because you can't. They're pragmatic, but not in the lame sense. The pragmatic is lame. Machiavellian is cool, and they're much more Machiavellian. Again, if you haven't checked out the episode with Matt Erickson on this podcast, go watch that one and say it. It's a really fun episode. And say the Star Wars episodes while you're at it. Those are a lot of fun. And I think it's a good way to introduce people to libertarian ideas through Star Wars. You know, they can come from Star Wars, get some Austrian economics, get some libertarian thoughts on history. Like specifically the Scott Horn episode, because that was absolutely incredible. Hey, here he is. He's connecting his audio. Sup? Hey, I think your audio. You think you're muted, bro. So it's connecting to audio. You're muted. I think you're muted, bro. It says you're connected, but you're muted. We're gonna get this figured out, guys. Don't worry. We're gonna get this all figured out. Does that help? Let me if I can ask you that.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. I can hear you. How you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Doing great, man. Well, what are you recording? I did a little pre-intro, gave you a good, hyped you up a little bit. So how's today going? You having a good day?
Man, I'm tired. I'm tired. I woke up at actually I never went to bed. I woke up at 8 p.m. last night and stayed up with a girlfriend and one of her friends to watch a movie. And I got called to go on the train at 3:30 this morning, and I've been up ever since. So I'm tired, but I'm also excited.
That's good. If you don't want me asking, what movie was it?
Titanic, actually.
Oldie
but goodie.
I've yet to see it. It's my movies. What movies I've seen are weird because I'm all over the place. You know, I'd be like, "Mom, Dad, can I go see this movie?" Like, nope, you're not old enough yet. And they say it for like the weirdest things. And so there's just a huge gap of my movie. Well, my light just went out. Yeah, my lights just went out. Give me a what the heck? Little technical difficulty.
There we go. I got light. Let there be light, and there was.
Okay. That was weird. My light just flashed out, but we didn't stop recording. All the technical difficulties this episode. Okay.
It is what it is.
Oh yeah. I've learned this to roll with it. I mean, I interviewed St. Hazel one time, and my power went out, my internet went out, and the microphone went out. And it was mic and trying to figure it out, power. It was a mess. I'm gonna get it fitness sadly. Anyway. So let's kind of go over your ideological history. You're Christpilled on Libertarian, so Christian Libertarian, I assume.
How much time you got?
Well, I have to attend because I got another podcast after this, so
okay.
Let's go for it.
Fair enough. It's been a bit of a journey for me actually. So my political awakening, I guess you could say, was the campaign of Barack Obama. Only I was the bane of every libertarian ever. I would have voted for John McCain if I could have voted in that election. Not that I liked John McCain, don't get me wrong. It was just, I didn't know enough about politics. And so I didn't like Obama. I didn't like whatever everyone that was around me was saying about Obama. And I was an impressionable 17-year-old at the time. So I would have voted for McCain. And I guess I grew up in a non-Christian but conservative family. I mean, lots of people in my family believed in Christ, but my dad and my mom and my stepmom, like they just never, it was never a point of emphasis. So with that in mind, like at the time I was influenced by the likes of Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity, and
Same here, man. When I got my first call, all I listened to was that Radisson had West in the morning and Sean Hannity. Yeah. I would hop in the truck just to drive to Walmart just to hear some Sean Hannity.
Yeah. So that was my beginning. I actually remember the very first political conversation that I remember having. It was, I don't even remember the guy's name. He was a friend of mine in my sophomore junior year. But we started talking about politics, and like I was so ignorant back then that I thought that I was a liberal when actually I was conservative. But I thought I was like on the left wing, but actually I was right wing, and I like argued with this kid for like 15 minutes that I was liberal when I really wasn't. I guess classical liberal, if you want to call it that, but whatever.
The only good
from there, from say what? I'm sorry.
The only good kind of liberal.
Yeah, that's yeah. From there, I automatically got pretty turned off by how weak John McCain was towards Barack Obama. Like that was my first idea that there was something more going on behind the scenes between the Republicans and the Democrats. It was like, okay, why is John McCain not pulling out all the stops to beat Obama? Like, are we not in this to win? And I carried that with me. I voted in the 2010 midterms. I was voting in local elections at the time, so it probably doesn't matter for our topics tonight. But I was already kind of getting into this social, real traditionalist, Christian conservative type of mind frame. And come 2012, my main political influence was Glenn Beck, of all people.
Not a bad choice. He's pretty libertarian on some issues.
Yeah.
He's a little too pro-war for me, but he's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, as Mormons go. I mean,
he's Mormon?
But anyway, yeah, he's Mormon.
I did not know that.
Huh. I think that he is I think his wife was Mormon, so, or maybe, I don't remember. I don't want to say what's not true. So I just know that he is Mormon right now. And it was one of those type of things where he's like lukewarm Mormon. He's one of those Mormons that like you talk to them, you get the impression that they actually love Jesus. They're not idol worshiping with the Mormon, theology. So
yeah.
But yeah, so because my biggest influence at that time was Glenn Beck, I ended up voting for Mitt Romney in 2012. So I know I am not scoring points with like anarchists and libertarians right now because
I won't hold it against you.
Oh man, it's gonna get worse. I'm just telling you, it's getting worse. But that was like, so whereas John McCain showed me that there was something weird going on behind the scenes, Mitt Romney was like the icing on the cake. Like after that election, I was a registered Republican to that point. After that point, I refused to identify with the Republican Party. Like I still voted for them in the midterms and in future presidential elections, but I wouldn't call myself one. I started calling myself a conservative instead because I just got tired of being backstabbed. I got tired of them selling out to, at the time, what I would have described as the forces that want to destroy this country. Come 2016, I had a lot more knowledge and experience, political experience under my belt, and I supported Ted Cruz in the primaries. It was the first time I voted in a primary. And I probably could have voted for Rand Paul. He was one of the guys that was on my radar. I could have considered Ben Carson, though Ben Carson I think was a little more in the same vein as John McCain and Mitt Romney,
Mm.
at least as far as his social policy goes. I don't remember that.
That was a weird primary. That was a weird one because it
Yeah.
had like all these
Yeah, it
traditional. It was weird for me because like I supported Trump from the get go, but I couldn't vote during the primary, but I could vote during the election.
Gotcha.
So I was like, Trump all the way, Trump 2020. And everyone was like, you can't even vote yet. So I'm like, I'm going to vote who the Republican guy is, but I hope it's Trump. It was a really weird time.
So I was fully behind. Well, at first I was kind of debating whether I wanted to support Ted Cruz or not. I was taking in all everyone's actions and seeing how the first couple primaries went. It was very obvious that Trump was the front runner from the beginning, and at that time, because I was a traditionalist social conservative, I actually was an anti-Trumper during the primary because of all the litany of things that you can go over about Trump that don't line up with Christian beliefs, and unfortunately, after Ted Cruz backed out of the race, and I had some time to lick my wounds, and the Republican convention passed by, I was like, okay, it's so very obvious that Hillary Clinton is the worst of the two evils here. And at the time, I was not a libertarian. I actually made fun of libertarians online because I was just not
easy targets.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, people like Dave Smith and Pete Quinones and other guys that are like very well known in the Libertarian Party and in the liberty movement in general. They're not pushovers. They're not easy to make fun of. But you're run of the mill, edgelord on Twitter. Yeah, generally they're pretty easy to make fun of.
Or left libertarians. I mean, be a conservative and want into voluntary dom.
I'm friends with left libertarians on Twitter. I talk to them all the time, and I love those people. But way back then, it was coming from that right wing semi-totalitarian place that I was. It was who was that guy that we kept arguing with a month or so ago about how Christians can't be anarchists.
Mason Orr, the classical conservative.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of where I was at back then. I kind of on level.
Honestly, that's worse than the neocon stuff. Worse than supporting John McCain.
Yeah, I realize that now.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I made the best political decisions in my life, but I'm trying to atone for that now,
Yeah.
So yeah, I voted for Trump in 2016 because lesser of two evils, wasn't a libertarian at the time, and what else am I gonna do? I didn't like it, but going into election night, I was like, the dude's gonna lose. He's just so unlikable, and Clinton's just got the popularity. She's just known by people, and she's not. I think that the propaganda machine had largely worked in her favor for that whole election. But lo and behold, he wins. Trump wins, and I had a couple years there where I didn't know what I believed. Between 2016 and 2018, I started to question a lot of things because Trump was as strong as I wanted a conservative leader to be, but he wasn't doing the conservative things when it mattered. He kept passing these horrible budgets. He kept, selling us out on gun rights and such like that. And it just turned me off altogether from Trumpism.
Yeah. That was a wolf. Like I was in the same camp. I was in the same camp during that time, so on the Trump train, but I kept seeing his policies. And I'm like, well, this is the most conservative president of our lifetime. I'm not seeing it. And they always like, well, he went to the pro-life march, and it's like, good for him. But what about everything else? Like this is not very conservative.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up the pro-life thing, and I forget which State of the Union it was, but it was kind of the last point where I was like gung ho for Trump. It was like he got up on stage in front of millions of Americans, and I forget exactly what he said, but it was like he stood up explicitly for the right to life, and I remember because I watched it live. I stood up and screamed in my apartment. Probably woke up all the neighbors because I was like, "Oh my God, somebody is finally standing up for this. Someone's finally coming against this genocide." I mean, I'm sorry to anybody who is pro-choice listening to me talk about this.
I'm not sorry. Fix your views. That's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. When it really boils down to it, they need to fix their views. I try to be very, not forgiving is not the right word. I try to be very accommodating. Yeah, patient. Patient is a good word.
You have a very you are very patient on Twitter. I'll give you that. You and Days 90 or Daniel, both of you, very. I'm not. After like 5 tweets, I'm like, okay, this is over. I'm making fun of this guy. It's time to make fun of him.
Go away, dude.
It's like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, no, I got you. I just want to teach people. At least I don't claim to know a whole lot. I'm especially not versed in all the philosophies, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But I feel like I tell people in my personal life, I feel like I've got a good sense for potential, both in people and in ideas, which should speak a lot to the Libertarian Party that I've joined the Libertarian Party. I'm not going to go down the post-lib route, even though I think they've got some good points.
Oh, yeah, I love them. Every time I listen to them, every time I listen to them, I'm more and more in that post-lib. I think they make a lot of good critiques.
Yeah, I mean, I've made a point to listen to some of popular liberties stuff lately.
He's coming on a podcast. I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what you have to say with him as well. He's got some good points, and I can tell that him and I are getting a lot of the same information. We're just coming to different conclusions, and talking online, especially when it's not face to face like this, or no audio or anything, you can't tell how someone's actually coming across. And I think sometimes when him and I have had discussions on Twitter, we've misunderstood each other, and it's been more belligerent than it had to be. But anyway,
letter caps, man. That's why I like Facebook a little bit more. You can actually take your time to like have a conversation.
Yeah.
It's like it sucks that all the good people on Twitter, and that's what all the conversations are happening, because it's like you're limiting it to only be short, and it's just what gets more retweets and likes is being mean to someone or actually having a debate.
Right.
So it's like it incentivizes the wrong attitude.
I've shrunk back a bit from Facebook because I actually don't like arguing with people that I know personally. I don't mind arguing and debating and teaching with people that I don't know online. It's impersonal, and I can just say what needs to be said. And I don't have to deal with people getting hurt feelings about things. But there's someone specifically in my brain that I'm thinking of right now, where I almost can't talk to him about things, even though we're friends, because he just can't hear what I have to say. He gets too upset about it. And there was a time that I was like that too. I would just get too worked up about stuff, and I didn't do justice to the ideas that I was trying to teach. So yeah, I mean that's I don't like to do too much. I post memes on Facebook. Basically, that's all I do is just shit post on Facebook. Yeah, it's not really even shit posting.
I post great trolls to my family. All my family's from Georgia, and so I tweeted out, "We need a recount in Georgia." Not because I think it was fraud. I just don't want Georgia people to count.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I actually use my Facebook mostly to just post screenshots of stuff that I find on Twitter, images here and there that I save, just to try to teach the people around me. I'm not going to sit there and argue with people. I don't go on other people's accounts and argue with them on Facebook. It's just not something that I think is productive, I guess is the best way to say it. But yeah, on Twitter, I'll argue all day long. We saw how I went toe to toe with the Christian statists a while back.
Who was that dude? He was like some Canadian middle school teacher who just kept. I don't know this or not, but it's like I really got mentioned on Twitter. He kept trying to explain the social contract theory, and it's like, no, we know what it is, and we still disagree with it.
Right. Like we know what social contract is, and we're saying that it doesn't exist. Yeah. Like we know what you're referring to, and we're saying like I never signed shit. Like you don't have a right to force shit on me, you know?
I get so mad with these people sometimes because they're just like, no, you don't understand. Like, no, I know what taxation is. You don't have to explain it to me.
Yeah.
You know,
people online seem to have this idea that everyone they encounter is a fucking idiot, you know? And they just like, and not only that, but they're idiots that are always arguing in bad faith, you know, like everyone just has an agenda against you and they're an idiot at the same time. So why not just treat them like shit, you know?
And I get so mad with people when they're like, you argue over utilitarianism or something, you know, like utilitarian ethics, and they'll just post a link to the trolley problem. And it's like, no, I know what it is. I can know what it is and still disagree with it.
Yeah, it's like the Romans 13 reference. Like, how many times do I have to see this one argument be made before it's like, I just give up, you know?
There's no point.
So,
and I try to have conversations with people, but I have no patience for midwits. I have no.
Yeah.
If you're in a midwit 115 IQ space to me, you're not. Michael Masters takes it too far and says they don't have souls. As a Christian, I do believe they have souls, but I don't think they're actually awake. Like in the Matrix, people who haven't taken the red pill, that's them. They're just programmed with people who can be absorbed by the machine. Like aliens can go in them and use them to spout off all the propaganda. You know, there's out to be the red pill, but you have to offer them the red pill. If they don't take it, well, then you can't do anything about it. I forget who came up with the label, but they are useful idiots. I think Rush Limbaugh called them low information voters. They're the same people. I mean, I don't want to hate these people too much because I get it. You know, there have been times I've actually been tempted to retract from politics because I just don't want to deal with all the fucking stress anymore. You know, and it doesn't necessarily mean I change what I believe, but I'm suddenly less informed and I'm not paying attention and I can be deceived by things. You know, so I don't want to hate these midwits too much. I don't even really like that term too much, but I mean, it is what it is. I also don't care about hurting people's feelings when it really matters, you know, like if you're operating under this useful idiot, low information voter type of lifestyle, then you are, if the boot fits, wear it, you know, you're a midwit. And I don't mean that in any sort of derogatory way, but you are what you are if facts are facts, you know, so. No, I'd say it's something similar when I said that most Facebook political debates or Twitter debates are just two bots talking to each other. You know, most people don't have the information. They're just reciting platitudes from Ben Shapiro, Tucker Carlson, all these people. And it's like, if that's the case, we should try to get those people and higher ups to become those higher ups and then program the bots to spout our views. And I said that, and they're just like, "Oh, well, you reject people's freedom." It's like, no, I just want. They're not. They are useful, but they're also useless. So let's just make them useful for us. And they were like, "You reject libertarianism." I'm like, okay, okay. I can't convince you, so I'm out.
Yeah. There's at some point you reach that. Let me backtrack a little bit. At some point, you will just get that you can't argue with these people. Like they're not able to comprehend what you're saying, and so all you can do is give up and ignore them. You know, so,
unless you're Ace Arcus on Twitter. I don't know how the hell he does it.
Great. I'm glad he finally did the face reveal with Joshua the other day. Like that was cool. I'm glad to finally see the face. You know.
Have you seen his debate with Brad Palumbo on political violence?
I heard about it. I think I saw snippets here and there, but I didn't get to see the whole thing.
It's incredible. Like Brad, I like him. He's like a modern day Milton Friedman, but he keeps bringing up like the most basic blue pill justification for the state ever. And it's like, no, you can't reject state violence because then the state has to be good. Like it's always like, it asserts the state is necessary, and therefore you can't fight against it because we can't have anything after the state. And it's like you can't state the end point and walk it backwards.
Yeah. No. Yep. I agree with you on that. But just to tie a bow on my political journey, because the last part is the most interesting part to me. You know, the part where I actually became libertarian. Around 2018, my life changed in a couple pretty big ways. I started working for the railroad. So I went from one corporate atmosphere where it was high. I was working in sales. I was Verizon store rep, actually, a store manager, actually. And so I was in sales with retail.
I don't know how to put this, but you look like a Verizon store. Like, I don't know how to put it, but if I walked to a Verizon and saw you, I would not be shocked. Like, you look like a guy who
Why
worked
do
at
you
Verizon.
insult me like this, bro? Like, why? No.
Like, you just have that. Like, no, if I walked into Verizon and saw you in the Verizon, I'm like, that dude worked at Verizon. You have that.
Fair enough. I try to stay somewhat. I mean, even with the beard and all that, I try to stay somewhat clean cut, and proper, I guess, if you want to call it that. So yeah, I was in sales, retail, customer service, all that, and I fucking hated it, man. Like, I didn't mind the customer service so much because I like people and I like to talk with people and all that, but I'm too honest to be a salesman. I can't sugarcoat shit just to sell you something. I'm just not like that. So in 2018, I made a point. It was one of my New Year's resolutions, actually, one of those things that people almost never follow through with, but I followed through with mine. At least this one I did, to get a new job. And my first question to myself was, what is the farthest thing from what I'm doing right now? And after a little bit of research, I was like, transportation. Okay, let me see if I would pilot, truck driver, like Reed Coverdale. Love Reed, he's great. Or what else could I do? And in the midst of that research, came up with the railroad. When I was a kid, I was always like into trains. It was kind of cool, but I got away from it when I was a teenager. And this was like almost like a childhood dream come true type of thing. I get to work for the trains, make a ton of money, and going to pilot school is expensive, and I didn't have any money at the time. And being a truck driver, from the research that I did, it just takes too long to make money as a truck driver. So I went with the trains. I applied for Norfolk Southern and CSX. I got the job with Norfolk Southern, and I work. I started full time in October of 2018. At the same time, I started dating my current girlfriend, who is probably going to be my wife one day. I'm not afraid to say that publicly. She'll appreciate.
How old are you again?
I'll be turning 30 in December. Yep.
Good.
By the way, my girlfriend is on Twitter, Daisy and Sage. Look her up. She needs followers. She's cool. Anyway.
You have to say that, but I understand.
Yeah, it's obligatory, but I mean it too.
That's good. I'll check her out.
Well. And I started dating her, and the friends that I made through her were what actually brought me into libertarianism. So I already had, like I said before, this traditionalist, conservative, slightly GOP type mindset at the time. But I was already in flux because of Trump. In a way, I can almost thank Trump for my political transition. I mean, not that he's good or anything, but like, he was the impetus for it all. So I started talking with a guy named Thomas, who is one of my best friends now. And he was the first libertarian that I ever got to just bounce all my ideas off of. He also is a local pastor in my area, or he does pastoral duties. So it's like, not only could I talk to him about politics, but like, I could talk to him about politics in the mindset of our shared Christian values. You know what I'm saying? Like, we spoke the same language. So it was like, I just, over time, it wore me down, for lack of a better term. Like, there did come a point, I don't remember exactly when it was. It was actually shortly before the COVID pandemic came around, where I just kind of realized, damn, I'm a libertarian. I never thought I'd say that, but I'm a libertarian, and that was the first moment where I was like, okay, so something radical is going on with me right now, and I don't exactly know what. I started talking with other libertarians online. Do you remember? Did you ever get to talk with Mac and Liberty? Mackenzie Buff? No. Okay. She was instrumental in yellow pilling me. Actually, she pretty much took me all the way to anarcho-capitalism. Austin Peterson. Yeah. Based. Austin Peterson was big for me too at the time. I still talk with him a good bit on Twitter. We're not close or anything, but you know, you get to talk with someone who's relatively famous, you know, with some form of frequency. It's kind of cool. So those two were big, and you know, I started reading a little bit that McKinsey recommended to me, and then the COVID pandemic hit, and all of a sudden, all these philosophical debates that I've been having with you know, people, you know, Thomas in my personal life, and people online, all of a sudden it became very real. You know, it was almost like Clinton's experience with Liberty Lockdown. Like he lost his entire lifestyle, and so, you know, all he had to do was go online and rant about it. You know, and for me, it was like I didn't lose my lifestyle. The railroad life actually got busier with COVID because, you know, we were one of the lifelines that were ferrying all the goods to everybody during the pandemic, you know. But so I had job security, but at the same time,
it's good.
I was already awake. Yeah, it was great actually. It was kind of a providential thing because I'd been furloughed. The railroad had laid me off for a little while, and because it's a union job, you never really lose your job, you know. But they called me back right before COVID hit, and it was like, okay, God, I can see you're taking care of me right now. You know, at least when COVID hit, I realized exactly how big it was. You know, at the time I was just like, oh my God, thank God I have my job back. And then a month later, COVID hit, and I'm like, wow, God, you were really looking out for me, you know. But anyway, yeah, seeing the heavy-handed response from every government in the world at every level, including all the GOP people that I used to really identify with, you know, and how quickly they all just cucked to everything. It was just like, oh my God, yep, I'm a libertarian, and I'm never going back because these people are fucking crazy, you know. And I made it my mission to wake up as many people as possible, you know. That's why I want to teach. That's why I try to be so patient online, is because I'm coming at this from the most genuine heart. You know, I don't hate people. I don't wish ill on people, including, frankly, the tyrants. Like, I want them locked up for the crimes that they committed. But, you know, I see a lot of people online. They're like, yeah, we wish the White House would burn down and kill everyone, or we wish, you know, the Capitol building would burn down. And I'm like, no.
In Minecraft, like if anyone, any Fed listening, that was talking about other people. I don't want
sure, yeah. We're talking about
other people saying that. I want to get that. I don't want to get this demonetized. I don't want to get this in the
and don't get me wrong. Like I'm not insensitive to those emotions. I get why people feel that way. Like, I have had those emotions, but I know I'm a Star Wars fan, right? And people who are Star Wars fans know who Saw Gerrera is. You know, and if we're Saw Gerrera, then we're not going to get shit done, you know, because Saw Gerrera, inside the universe, he was hated by everybody except his most loyal followers, you know. So it's like, are we going to be violent? Are we going to sacrifice civil? I mean, when the shit hits the fan, are we going to sacrifice civilians to, you know, accomplish our goals? I'm not. I'd rather take a bullet, you know.
When it comes to political strategy and action, I'm much more on the pacifist side. It's a documentary. The quick side of all, the documentary on Amazon. I keep referencing it, and I need to actually remember what the name of it is for once. Bob Murphy recommended it. See if you can find from him what it is. It's on peaceful revolutions or something like that. It's about this guy who helps people have peaceful conflict resolution in other countries. You know, a pacifist kind of success story. And there was this country, I can't remember where it was. They had heavy election fraud. And the people were like, we're going to take guns and storm the Capitol building and find the information and prove it was fraud. He's like, there's like a couple thousand of you. They can't sue all of you. Just walk in there with numbers and get the data. So they did. They all just walked in there. They had those, everyone had to leave. They got the data and proved election fraud. No one died, and they got the solution. If they went in there with guns, they were filling out like Red Dawn. I'm convinced at this point Red Dawn is a political propaganda put out by the government. Too many conservatives want to live Red Dawn. I'm convinced that's propaganda. At this point, it worked too well for it not to be.
Right. Well, and Red Dawn was one of my favorite movies, both of them actually. I mean, people rag on the new one, but I'm like, if we had just made it Chinese instead of North Korean, like, it could be somewhat plausible in like 100 years. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, no, I'm with you. This idea that we're going to be able to just immediately deal with all the tyranny through violence, like it. Yeah, we'll deal with the tyranny that exists, but we'll probably create more in the process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's not a win in my mind. It's not even a Pyrrhic victory. You're losing and you don't realize it. So,
yeah.
I'm trying to think. That I did want to talk about Joe Jorgensen because that was the last big topic, to take us to the present. Because nothing has really changed for me since the election, right? Mm-hmm. So after I realized I was libertarian and the pandemic hit, at that time I started arguing really, really, really hard for kind of a local approach to the liberty movement in general. I actually started from where Popular Liberty and Pete Quinones and all the others are right now. I started from this. Okay, maybe libertarians should be working within the GOP. I mean, that was because of Trump. Like I kind of viewed him as a first step in the process towards liberty. I thought at the time that we were not going to get to a place. We weren't going to have Ancapistan overnight. The post lives like to talk about, don't live in Ancapistan in your head, and they got a point there. We can't, because it's not possible, right? We can't have Ancapistan tomorrow. We have to work within what already exists. And I'm not saying that we'll touch more on this later, but I'm not saying that we can't, that we should work within the state. There's definitely things we should be doing outside of it, but while the state exists, we should use it in our favor. But so yeah, I was actually in that spot, and I wanted to use Trump in the favor of liberty. Because just like in 2016, it looked like the front runner was going to be Biden on the Democrat side, and it was like, okay, Biden is obviously worse than Trump. There's just no way around that. And I know there were a few libertarians that disagreed with me. Most libertarians, I would say, were all in to figure, whoever was going to be their nominee in the LP. And I couldn't hate them for it. Like I finally understood the voting third party thing. I was finally in that place where, I've been alienated from every political affiliation that I've had before because of mostly because of their fecklessness. Like they just have no spines. They just will not do what they say they want to do. They'll run on one thing, and then when it comes time to actually vote for it with the power that they've been given, they just don't fucking do it. Which I think is one of the I don't even know what the word for it is right now. I don't think the post libs are taking that into account. Like, yeah, you can put your people in power, but are they actually going to do what you tell them to do? But just real quick, just to get to Joe Jorgensen, like I wanted to give her a chance. And I did not commit to voting for Trump until about a month before the election. And actually the issue that clinched it for me was the fact that Joe Jorgensen was not pro-life. She was pro-choice as libertarian, as the LP is pro-choice. It's not the same thing as Democrats. So I respected the position, but I disagreed with it. And I was like, look, not only is Biden worse than Trump, but Trump is the only staunchly pro-life candidate that there is. So I'm
going to push back on you a little bit on this one. Because I view libertarians who are pro-choice as more useful and power than we conservatives who are pro-life. Let me explain why. Conservatives, even when they have power, they did nothing about abortion. Everything abortion was done local level. Even with the pro-choice,
everybody will disagree with you.
Even pro-choice libertarians want to get state funding out of abortion. And so even if they're pro-choice and are going to allow abortion to happen, I would not be funded on mass scale. And so I at least can find that argument a little bit more persuasive. As I argue my own youth pastor. One part be on Facebook. I argue all my own youth pastors on politics.
Yeah.
But I would say, even if it's pro-choice, voting libertarian third party, because they were actually if they win, would be more like, hey, let's stop funding abortion with tax dollars. I'm like, yeah, I could support that, because I don't think conservatives. It's like guns; those are two issues they get too much money for to actually do anything about.
Right. Yeah, they actually will continue to concede on the gun rights stuff to the tyrants.
Yeah.
And I'm actually not going to disagree with you too much on the libertarian position. I would say that it is the most consistent position, which, talking about Dave Smith, most consistent motherfucker, like libertarianism in general is the most consistent motherfucking ideology that's out there,
Yes,
and that's one of the things that actually drew me to it. So I'm not even going to disagree with you. It was just at the time I was not in the mind space. I still had some cognitive dissonance, and I was still kind of invested in Trump, emotionally speaking. It was just one of those things I just felt like needed to be done. And maybe we could talk about this some other time. I don't want to get too caught up on this right now, because it might be a little controversial. But I actually was under the impression at the time that Trump is what God wanted in office versus Joe Jorgensen. Just because, I mean, I hate to lean on like this mystical feeling, there were reasons behind it that I don't even quite remember anymore because so much has happened since then. But it was just this deep confidence that, like, yeah, libertarianism is great, and I am a libertarian, and after this election, like, I'm never voting GOP again. But I have to do it this time because I just feel like that's what God wants me to do, and that's not going to earn me points, and I understand that, and that's fine. But
no, I don't blame you. I respect any Christian who can assert Holy Spirit or assert God's will or something. And like I can't explain it, I can't defend it, but I followed it. I respect those people. My favorite character in the Bible is Gideon, and so because and that's like, anytime someone can embody a Gideon type character, not knowing why but so trusting in the plan, I have immense respect for that. So yeah, no arguments for me here.
Well, and it was interesting because my girlfriend was like staunchly Joe Jorgensen, like the entire campaign, and then
you have a Liberty girlfriend.
Yeah,
you lucky bastard.
Pretty damn cool. That's why I told you guys you should go follow her. Anyway,
everyone go follow her. It's a Liberty girlfriend.
At Daisy and Sage on Twitter, follow her. Anyway,
write that down for the show notes.
Yeah, yeah. She was all in for Joe Jorgensen, and then like 3 days before the election, she came up to me and she said the same thing. She was like, I love JoJo. I really do. I wanted her to win. Everything about my human self wants her to win, and I want to vote for her. But I just feel like God's telling me to vote for Trump. And I was like, because the entire election, like in 2016, my girlfriend was a Bernie bro. Like she was, she was all in for Bernie, and we weren't dating at the time, so whatever. We were in contact, but we were friends. It wasn't nothing more than that. She was dating somebody else, and then when we started dating, like she got red pilled pretty quick, because of just being around me. And then, like I said, she was all in for Joe Jorgensen and ended up voting for Trump. And then after the election, given all the the drama that happened with the election, we kind of flipped sides. It's like she retained her confidence in her vote after the fact, whereas me, I looked at all the fraud and all the is Trump telling the truth? Was there really fraud? I think there really was fraud. I mean, I watched the votes jump up. I watched Joe Jorgensen's votes fall in Pennsylvania that night. I stayed up till like 4 a.m. on election night watching the results come in because I was convinced Trump was going to win in a landslide. Like I just was. I really did think that he was just going to beat the pants off of Biden. And then all of a sudden he didn't, and I was like, hold on, there's something really fucking weird going on here. I mean, look at the crowds this dude was pulling. Look at what Biden's got. And I think, just to throw a bone to people out there that have a problem with the election fraud claim, I can understand the counterpoint that maybe people, voting by mail and all that can explain why the votes jumped at 3 a.m. in the morning, after everyone's gone to bed. It still looks fishy, and that still needs to be solved in our election process, as long as we have an election process, because fuck elections. But
yeah, as long as I was trying to complain about it. They were like, "Oh, I thought you didn't like democracy." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't, but I like fraudulent democracy less than real democracy."
right, exactly. Yeah,
like it's not inconsistent here.
If we're gonna have a tyranny of the majority, that at least needs to be fair. Damn it.
Exactly.
Oh. But anyway, yeah. So that pretty much takes us to the current time, because not much has changed since then. I kind of wrestled after the election a little bit with what exactly I call myself, because I wasn't quite comfortable yet with being called an anarchist. Though I think
you went by voluntary minarchist at one point.
Yeah,
I think it's the same thing.
It really is. Yeah. Well, and that's because I didn't understand all the terms. I went from libertarian to like staunch minarchist, and then I was like, okay, I believe in that government should. I see the point that government should be voluntary. Like, no matter what it does, whether it exists or not, if it's going to exist, it needs to be completely by the consent of the government. And there should never be a point at which the government can, without any consequence, impose on people. I'm totally on board with that. But I consider that voluntarism, right? So I carried that for a few months, and then I forget who it was. I just got in a conversation with somebody on Twitter, and they're like, I explained my position, and they were gracious to me, and they were like, "Dude, you're an anarchist. You don't know it, but you're an anarchist." And I'm like, "Huh, I guess I'm an anarchist." It was kind of the same thing as becoming a libertarian. I was like, "Huh, I'm a libertarian. Huh, I'm an anarchist." And that just real quick, that speaks to something that I think even now libertarians need to learn, is that we don't convince people by beating them over the head with our philosophy books, just like Christians don't convince people by beating them over the head with the Bible. You have to sit and love people. You have to sit and teach them. You have to be patient with them. You have to coach them through. I mean, that's how.
And you have to accept you might not be the guy. You might not be the final guy. A lot of people, no one changes their mind in the middle of an argument. You have to be really rational and like remove some change their mind in the middle of an argument. If you're arguing with somebody, you're not backing down until it's over. You might back down a month later, think about it and go, "Oh, he was right." You're not going to be you could play the groundwork, but you're not going to be the story because it came back. You have to accept that. A lot of people need to learn that. Yeah.
My friend Thomas that I mentioned earlier, who was probably the biggest inspiration for me becoming a libertarian and an anarchist. He now he'll talk to our other liberty friends. He's like, "Do you not remember Andrew from like 3 years ago? Like the Trump supporting, GOP loving, conservative," and they're like, "Wow, yeah, he was like that, and now he's like radically anti-government." And I'm like, yeah, because you guys, like, you all just bore with me, you didn't make me feel like a piece of shit. So anyway, yeah, that brings us to the current time.
Well, that was I had a very similar experience. I think I didn't always stay on the right. Farthest left I went was Andrew Yang, and that's only for like a 2-month window because I was like, I didn't know any economics. I went to Yang, like, UB has a great idea, and like there's something like read some economics, and so I learned a little bit of like Bob Murphy. I'm like, oh yeah, this is just dumb as hell.
Yeah,
bounce right over.
Yeah, UBI is a good idea if and only if it comes from a government surplus.
Yeah,
and if there's a government surplus,
honestly, I'd rather have UBI than welfare. I describe like we say everyone says welfare is a safety net. You ever fall in a net and try to get out of it? It's fucking hard. We don't need a net. Yeah, we don't need a net because you don't get off the net. People, in some states you can't the monitor your bank account if you save too much money to take you off welfare, so you can't even save for that level of because you go from here like 78 hours.
There's no benefits.
Yeah, like my dad gets so mad. We had this guy working for him, and he refused to go full time. He'd work 38 hours a week, and he's like, if I work anymore, I lose my benefits, lose my welfare. And my dad's like, he's so lazy, I don't want to lose his welfare. I'm like, God, he has kids. If he works 2 more hours, he made up $20. He's lost everything else. He's not making enough to bridge the gap, and they won't let him bridge the gap. And so I've said we need a ladder with brackets. but now I'm just against government funding anything at all because it subsidizes bad behavior. Okay, I think it was I can't remember what book it was, but Thomas Sowell wrote a great book about how do I put this? Larry O and Thomas would talk about this a lot, but how in the when they first started doing welfare, people would go door to door in the black community and say, "Hey, if you have more kids can come out of the house, you get more money." And it's like they literally subsidize bad behavior to create an eternal voting class. Like I read per my boss on voting because I said every vote was bought with a bribe. He's like, "No, it's not." I'm like, "You don't." I said, "You don't think increasing someone's welfare as a bribe?"
Well, they do that. They do that with all minorities in this country. I mean, for a long time, I wouldn't have said it like this, but welfare is quite literally racist. I mean, it presupposes that minorities are not capable of taking care of themselves, so we have to support them because of the white burden.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not a social justice warrior, but like, it's not a lie. No lies.
The Democrats really are like the Democrats and the left really preach this whole like original sin of America is racism and white guilt, and the only way to absolve it is to vote for us. We'll give you the communion needed to like absolve original sin. And it's like it's really religious. You see it, you're just like, wow, that is some sick shit.
And have you ever noticed that like the most powerful people on the left are inevitably white, and usually male at that? They gaslight us. They gaslight us all the damn time.
Oh, enough when when you're in a debate with someone and they're still trying to gaslight you about their own success, like you're making an argument like, oh, I've been knocking you up and down with the same statement the entire time. I was like, stop gaslighting me mid argument. Like that nascent. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. Usually, I just choose to start ignoring those people. Like that's just bad faith, and I can't do it.
I get so upset. Like I remember Nathan the classic was arguing with Ace, and he's like, you think this guy makes a good argument? He's made a good argument this entire time, and it's like the fact that you have to not only gaslight everyone else, try to gaslight yourself for the thing you've won is sad. It's just these people. Yeah. I really can't stand people who gaslight themselves. Oh, it really bugs me because it's like just admit you've lost and move on.
I think that's funny. I think it's funny when they do that because they can't see that they've lost, so they just keep going and going. And I'm like, all right, just keep making a fool out of yourself. That's fine.
Hopefully, in 6 months, you realize, oh my gosh, I got everything wrong. Like you'll be in the middle of a shower, just washing off, and you're thinking about the argument from months ago, and you're like, oh shit, I got that dead. I was way off. I'm trying to like I've done it before. I've gone on Twitter, gone back to the argument, like, hey, you were right. Like I that was wrong. Like I want people to know they actually made an impact. So I try to go back to the arguments if I mind saying and say, hey, you changed my mind. Good job. Yeah. I try to be nice about it.
I don't keep receipts very often. Just because it's not worth my time, I try to win my arguments in the moment, and if it just fizzles out, then I don't care to continue it. There was one thing that I kept receipts about because I got, like I said, I was invested emotionally in Trump winning, and so I told some rando on Twitter that Trump would win my state, South Carolina, by 15 percentage points. I think he only won like 11 or 12 last in 2016. And so I was basically claiming that he was going to increase his margins, and I forget exactly how it played out, but like I told this dude I was going to keep the receipts because he was just vehemently arguing with me about it. And he got back to me a couple weeks ago. Like I'd forgot all about this. I would have never got back to him. That receipt would have sat and rotted in my notes in my phone. But like he got back to me and just doing like a minor bit of research, which he obviously didn't do. It was like a push between us. It was like Trump did better in South Carolina by raw vote total, but did worse by percentage. So like, who's really right here? Like I said that Trump would do better. Did I specifically mean that percentage wise? Yeah, I did. So I'm half wrong, but he still did better, Yeah. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I mean, the point is that like, he just keeping receipts a lot of times it just doesn't work for me. Or I guess it works for other people, and that's fine. I'm not hating it, but it doesn't work for me.
So you and I were talking about successing the other day, about states succeeding, and I think we have a little disagreement here, but not amazing one. I think you said successing. I'm trying to recap your argument if I can remember what it was. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong. You said any state that succeeded will have the full force of the northern government come down on them, or not northern government, like the government come after them. Like there's no way to have peaceful succession. I believe that was your point.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I just highly doubt it.
Yeah. Look, I'm in a similar camp there. Like I was always like about success, and he's like, we have the guns. I'm like, you don't want to fight this fight. You know, like
Right.
you don't want to fight the fight. I'm not arguing to lose or win, but you don't want to fight it. This is why I think Florida is prime for success in, and we provide so much food. And I think Florida and Texas provide food and energy for a lot of the country. And so I think their success in could actually work because we have enough resources to kind of like, hey, leave us alone.
Using Florida as an example of what my concern is, because it's more of a concern than like a concrete belief, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just concerned that peaceful secession isn't possible under the current state of affairs. And we'll use Florida as an example because you guys provide so much food to the rest of the country, especially the Southeast and the Northeast. If you guys cut off the food tap, what do you think, especially the Northeast, is going to do? They're going to come with guns and try to take their food because you took food from them. You know, I mean, I'm not saying they have a right to it, but like that's
so my argument is that we could not withhold the food. Could that be? I'd say like withholding food being act of like starvation. You know, that's a bad move. But to say was, hey, we have the food. You want the food. You could come take it, or we could continue to trade peacefully. You just no longer have federal control over us. You try to take it, we're destroying all of it, and no one gets it. Like I think that kind of attitude would be like, well, what's the easiest option here? What's the cheapest, easiest option? Letting us leave and trade peacefully, or killing everyone and trying to take the food by force to get nothing? Because there's three outcomes: no food, yes food. That's the only outcome.
I mean,
but it'd be very tricky.
I would say that game theory would dictate that like they would probably take the peaceful trade option. You would hope that they would.
You would hope. These warmongers, you never know.
My counterpoint to what you're saying is Waco and Ruby Ridge. Like the people who are in power don't give a shit. All they care about is the power. They will starve every single one of us if it means that they keep their power. So
that is the only problem. That's the only problem with Florida's success in the peninsula. It'd be very easy to blockade us. And we have to be very self-sufficient. And I don't think Florida's self-sufficient enough yet.
Especially since the United States military is the biggest military on the planet, and our Navy is bigger than like 15 combined. You know, I don't know if it's 15, but it's bigger than it's bigger than all the ones that could do anything to us. So it's like, how is Florida by itself going to resist the rest of the United States? It's not. You know, I'm just being a realist here. I mean, that was actually one of my biggest things when I first became a libertarian was I just was huge into the realism of it all. Like, yeah, sure, I'm a libertarian, but like you guys need to understand what you're dealing with. You know, we can't be idealists here because that's going to get us all killed. And that kind of relates to the secession argument. I mean, if just to put it out there, my stance, and you and I have talked about this, you know, personally, and I think even in public on Twitter, but for the podcast, I think that decentralization is the first thing we should try because we haven't tried it yet. And if that fails, then absolutely we should pursue secession. And I will also throw a bone to you, Caleb, here, right, and say that if we pursue decentralization, it's entirely possible that some of the decentralized parts will take it to the extreme of secession, you know, and I'm not going to say that's necessarily a bad thing. I think just to rope something else in here for a second, like Popular Liberty on his both podcasts actually with Jose Galison and Pete Quinones, he quoted a guy called Peter Zehan a lot, almost word for word, a lot of the stuff he was talking about. And Zehan is a genius, like a geopolitical genius. I really respect the work that he's done. And he's made some predictions that have come true so far. And it's intuitive stuff once you see the data, but no one in the public ever sees the data. So what I'm getting at is one of the things that Zehan says is that the United States is basically on easy mode. We've got the best geography in the world as far as
Mhm.
economics go. We've got the most defensible geography in the world.
Yeah.
I would venture to say that we are stronger as a united nation than we are as separate seceding parts.
I don't disagree with any of that.
I'm sorry.
I don't disagree with any of that. I think that's all so far true.
I do think that if there were to be some sort of national divorce, as Jesse Kelly has called it, I think we could still work out some peaceful terms of trade and still present something of a united cultural front to the world. But I worry about right now, China and Russia and the other actors in the world, the other places that don't give a shit about our libertarian politics, they are going to do everything in their power to sow as much division as possible in our country, right? Because they know it's good for them. And I'm not talking about this as libertarian. I'm just being a realist right now. And so, if we go down this secession route, then most likely these other geopolitical players are going to pick sides. And when other players pick sides, what could end up as some sort of peaceful resolution, peaceful trade talks, as some sort of post-America NAFTA agreement, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I hate NAFTA, but it is what it is. I don't think it would work. I mean, maybe something would be there in name, but would we really trade with each other? I mean, we're so different now. The Northeast is so much different from South Carolina. California is so much different from literally the other side of the mountains from the coast. I mean, I just don't know.
I've considered starting this. I call it a succession caucus. I consider starting a succession caucus. But the whole goal of it would not be to argue for succession. It'd be argued for prepping America for succession. And so finding out what other points America is, what are the point Florida is weak in, we have food, we have the dairy, we have what are we missing out on, and prep Florida for success. I think besides Texas, any state right now that succeeded would be crushed or failed.
Yeah,
but I think the point, I think that if we want to have a succession plan, you have to do a lot more prep. Like the idea we can just succeed on the go. I think that's anyone who says that doesn't really know the economics of the state and doesn't know what the state has to offer. And if you look into it, I've done some heavy research and trying to figure out Florida's success and success rate. I'm sorry to say that word. And Florida, I think if we have to be in unison. A single state succeeding will get crushed, and a single state succeeding without proper resource management would also get crushed. But I think if Texas, Florida, basically a confederacy. I'm just sadly the same thing. I hate the fact that it's going to be labeled.
I was actually going to make that same point. It's like if anything were to happen, it would probably be some sort of neo confederacy plus the mountainous West.
It would get so it'd be so hard to defend it because they'd be like, "Oh, you're just bringing back the Confederacy. You're gonna bring back slavery too." And it's like, this is why I don't want. I literally respond. This is why I don't want to live with you anymore. Leave me alone.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that
this is why I want to secede, because you just call me a racist for wanting to do my own thing.
Exactly. And so I think people who argue for success off the get-go are wildly mistaken. But I think the goal of every state, in my opinion, should be to be self. We want America to be self-sufficient. I want every state to be self-sufficient. I want every state to be self-sufficient to the point where, And so I think anyone who is an outright successionist, that goal should not be arguing for success right away. It's be preparing for that moment. Because I don't think things are bad enough yet for people to succeed.
It's almost irresponsible. It's almost irresponsible in my mind. I haven't hashed all this out, so don't flame me too much, everybody who's watching. But
all 5 people are gonna be really upset.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, all 5. But my point is, like, it's almost irresponsible to argue for secession without preparation first, because it's like the problem that Matt Erickson and Ben Armani had with Dave Smith. Like, at that point, you really are making people into martyrs, and are you willing to sacrifice that blood right now? Like, is it that time yet? I don't think it is.
Yeah.
But
No, I absolutely agree. This is why I really consider starting not a new party, because I think party that I'm very much the two-party system in America, sadly, and you have to work within the framework. But a caucus could bridge party lines and could very easily become a super PAC. And so I'm
sure.
seriously considering starting the success in caucus. And it's because no one focuses on local politics, sadly. Everyone focuses on federal. And so the best way to say, hey, so the federal government can't fuck with us, let's just not be a part of it anymore.
Right.
And so I really think that, and if you really do, and the ways you can prepare a state for success are not easy, but there's ways to do it where you can get done within, I think, 5 years. And so I've really considered starting this process and trying to get Florida, trying to get Texas, trying to start a movement, talk to people, and start trying to organize this. I really think that is the only solution. But I think we should try decentralization, but I think we could try that to a point. After that point comes, it's over. Like you fight, you succeed, or you submit. And I think our goal should be to.
I'm just going to ask, what is that point in your mind?
I don't know what the point is, because I thought the point would be when I legit saw no white women down the church, and so I think the point is going to be fucking with the kids in the schools and critical race theory, mandating masks in public schools, mandating vaccines in public schools. It's already happening now.
Everything's going on right now.
Yeah, I know. It's really bad real fast. Like it's from 0 to 100 real fucking quick. I think it's going to be Ron DeSantis is saying he's going to fight against it. And I think we'll have several years of fighting out in the courts. But I really think it's going to end up with them winning. I don't think we're going to win. And so I think we have 5 years for the courts fighting it out to really prepare.
I agree with you. I think because I'm a realist, I completely agree with your preparation, with the goal of your preparation, because you never know when it's actually going to pop off. I don't think any of the Confederates that stormed Fort Sumter, I don't think they realized what they were doing. I think they thought that the Union was just gonna leave, and leave them alone. And that's obviously not what happened. We fought a 4-year war, the most bloodiest war in our history, because of what a few South Carolinians did in Sumter, so, or at Fort Sumter, excuse me. I'll get crucified by South Carolinians for saying Sumter. Anyway, what was the point I was going to make? I completely agree with your localized government approach, and that's really what I mean by decentralization. And in saying that, I realize that I have to concede some of the argument to the post libs, because I live in South Carolina, like I said, and I live in one of the reddest parts of South Carolina. Most likely, they're not going to vote for a Democrat. It's not going to happen. Most likely, they're not going to vote for a Libertarian. They're going to see an R by somebody's name, and they're going to vote R. So if I want Libertarian policies to be enacted in my county, in my state, I probably need to run as a Republican if I want to get involved. And if there's someone that I like that is already getting involved, they probably need to run as a Republican. I'm not saying that always needs to be that way.
Yeah.
Which is where I think the post libs go wrong. They're like, this is how it always has to be. We just always have to work with the GOP. I think we can move towards
they normalize a lot. I love them. I love watching them, but they do a lot of normalization. And it's there are some counties where I think LP could work. But on vast majority, people do not vote by ideology, vote by letters. I think you have to accept that.
We do for now. That's why it's the same train of thought as Trump is the first step in the process towards liberty. We've gone so far in this direction, it's going to take another 50 years to get out of it. So we shouldn't try to do it all at once. And so we shouldn't try to get Dave Smith elected, as president in 2024. He's already said that it's not going to happen. And as much as I would love for it to happen, as much as I root for it to happen,
Michael Malice's press check, man. That's all I want.
Yeah. Oh my God. Just for that alone, it's so worth it. But but no. So what Dave needs to do is exactly what he says he's going to do. He's going to go get on Rogan. He's going to get on Tim Pool. He's going to go on all these huge platforms, and he's just going to bellow about liberty on the biggest stages. And that's what we need right now from the presidential candidate.
See, I don't know if it has to be a presidential candidate. Like when people say you have to, like, I made this point. I can't remember I made it to, but I said everyone says Dave Smith even said himself, I want to do a speaking tour, pretty much. And like that's fine. Why do politics? I don't get it. Jordan Peterson gave one of the greatest speaking tours of all time. He won for office. I think he's a comedian. I think if he got Tom Woods, Bob Murphy, and Dave Smith, a few others, went around doing lectures to like big events, they get a massive crowd because those are very exciting people.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be very easy to do like a Mises tour kind of thing.
Right. I agree. I don't think that Dave necessarily has to run for president to have that type of exposure. But in the official capacity as the LP candidate for president, I think it would gain him that much more, and every little bit helps. When that is your goal is just to get exposure for the message of liberty, every little bit helps, and so why not pursue the biggest stage a libertarian can have right now, the LP ticket for president. But I will say this, and this kind of reeling back to your localism concept here. I've always thought ever since I realized that I was a libertarian, and even into my anarchist thought, that the LP needs to stop worrying so much about the presidential ticket because it's not going to happen right now. That's not how you're going to affect LP change within the system with the LP. Like, if you want to affect change, you need to go and find races where your candidates will win in local elections. Maybe you can win a bunch of state house seats. Maybe you can win some congressional seats. That would really fucking help right now, And I'm not saying that they're not doing that. I know that they are, especially the Mises Caucus. The Mises Caucus is trying. I mean, I will say this: the Mises Caucus is the only reason I'm a dues-paying member of the LP right now. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't.
Same here.
So, and so the woke libertarians can suck on it because, sorry, like your message did not appeal to me. I did not become a libertarian to be like you, Cato Institute, Reason Magazine. Like, sorry, you guys aren't my people.
I started off with Reason. Like, I went from I got into Liberty to Joe Jorgensen, and so I didn't even know what the Mises Institute was, and I kind of just was like, crazy anarchist people. We just gotta vote local. That was like maybe a month and a half like that. Then I found Tom Woods, and I was just like, nope, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm not what I would hope. God, I love Tom Woods.
But yeah, I need to listen to more Tom Woods. To be honest with you, I've heard so much about him, and I just haven't got around to it because I've been like on all these other rabbit trails with the Post Libs and Dave and everything else. So I'll get around to Tom Woods eventually. I think just like I'll eventually get around to all of the philosophies, Murray and Rothbard and Mises and all that. Like, I need to read them so bad, but I don't have time.
Tom Woods is the absolute best of the Liberty movement. Like, I love everyone in the movement, but Tom Woods is the absolute best. I mean, his podcast, Tom Woods Show, Contra Krugman, his speeches. I have all his books for like 4 of them now. I mean, he follows me on Twitter, which is the coolest thing ever. I just absolutely I adore Tom Woods. Like, he's my favorite public. Like, I mean, I was telling my mom, like, Mom, Tom Woods follows me on Twitter. My favorite living historian follows me on Twitter. She's like, you're 22 years old. You have a favorite historian.
Get a life.
Yeah. I'm like, no, this is cool, Mom.
Yeah. Oh, I forget who it was that followed me on Twitter, and it was like I was just so fucking happy about it. God, who was that? Oh, there's been a few people, but Angela McCardle follows me for one thing. Yeah, that is pretty cool. God, there was someone I think it was even more high profile than that follows me, and I don't remember who it was. Oh well. But I've had those moments where I'm like nerding out, because somebody that's semi-famous is noticed me, senpai, Anyway.
Every time I put out a somewhat edgy tweet, I check the follower. I check Tom Woods' page. Like, he still follow me? He saw that? Okay, he didn't leave. Gotcha. I have to double check because I tweeted some things out where it's like, I'm gonna lose them.
It was Austin Peterson. That's who it was. He followed me back, and I was like, I'm literally being followed by a former LP presidential candidate.
That's pretty cool.
Or, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Or, yeah, that's pretty cool.
So anyway,
Well, we've talked a lot about politics, and you are Christpilled, so let's kind of jump tracks a little bit.
Okay.
Religious wise, you said you grew up in a conservative household, roughly conservative and semi-Christian. What do you mean by that
Yes.
exactly? Was your family like going to church every holiday, or are they more like an every Sunday kind of guy?
More on the holidays thing, and even then, like, we didn't really go to church service on holidays.
Hmm.
So little bit of backstory about my life. I was raised by my mother and father until I was 6. They divorced. Um, Raised by my single father until I was 12. He remarried, and I had a stepmom um, I was an adult. My dad and my mom. My dad wasn't, but neither of them are really religious at all. Um, my dad's family, however, my my dad's dad's parents, so my great grandparents on my grandfather's side, um, they were Methodists. Okay. Um, on my mother's side, her mother, my mom's mom, my grandmother, is Lutheran. Um, and so was my step grandfather. They got married, and they've been um, faithful Lutherans for decades. Um, when my dad remarried to my stepmom, um, they struggled to find a church that would marry them because they were, living together out of wedlock. Um, and so the only church locally that would marry them was the Episcopal Church. And so as a family, we joined the Episcopal Church, and I actually like served in the church when I was a pre-teenager. Um, I got away from it by the time I was 15 or so. Kind of went through my own self discovery when it came to my faith. There was a time, I think, when I was 13, 14. Um, it was May 31st, 2005. That's when I became a Christian. Like, I have an actual like conversion date. It's kind of hokey when people like make too much, make an idol out of that. But and I actually have a date for myself, and it's kind of cool. But
That's really cool.
but yeah, it was one of those moments where I was in a little bit of trouble, and I was just like, God, if you get me out of this, I'll give you my life, because it was that kind of trouble. It was kind of serious, and he came through, and so I did. I came through on my end of the bargain too. I gave my life, and to that point, personally, like, yeah, I'd had some Christian influence in my life, but there was no like direct, we are this, except for the Episcopal thing, and I didn't really buy into the Episcopalian stuff. It was just something my parents did. To that point, personally, I was mostly kind of agnostic. I guess I believed that there was something out there. I didn't know what it was. I was a 13-year-old, 14-year-old that was like, I don't know what to think about all this. Evolution seems cool. And then, I actually started studying. I studied evolution. I studied science as much as I could as a 13, 14-year-old. I researched other religions and figured out what they believed. And, all this led up to that point where I was like, okay, God, get me out of this trouble that I'm in. And he did. And I was like, you know what? I prayed to Jesus when that happened, and it happened. So that's who I'm gonna roll with. And over the next couple of years, I just voraciously tore the Bible up. Like, I mean, when I say tore the Bible up, I mean I was like in it all the time, like notes like this, highlighting and stuff. I had a favorite book in the Bible,
A
all
book.
that. I wrote Romans, by the way. Strangely enough,
That's kind of funny.
well, Romans to me reads like a pep rally talk. It's like a pep rally speech. Especially once you get past the first chapter, it's like first chapter is pretty dark. Actually, Paul's like ripping people a new one, and then like he just goes on this tirade about how great we have it in Christ, and it's like, man, I can get down with that energy.
No, it's
And
really
so, yeah,
weird, but there are a lot of Christian anarchists who have Every Christian anarchist has one major idiosyncrasy. I don't know if you've been around people, but all of them have one major thing where they're just like, that's a weird one that you have. And for a lot of them, they rip Paul out of the Bible. Like a lot of Christian anarchist Facebook groups, they rip Paul right out of the Bible. I'm just like, I don't love Romans 13, but I'm not gonna take it that far to rip Paul out of the Bible. That seems pretty radical.
Well, I take the approach to Romans to Paul and his teachings that Peter did, which is that Paul is inspired by God, but his word is hard sometimes, and it's hard to understand. And I think we talk in our group. We talk about the various theological concepts and all that.
I love that group, man. That is the best group I've ever been in my life.
It's great.
It is so much fun.
The term sola scriptura comes up sometimes, and I'm always torn about it because, I believe the Bible is inspired, every word of it. It's special, compared to all the other documents we've had in human history. I'm talking about the Bible itself. Like, the Word of God is special. It's more attested to than any other book in history. It flows better than any other book. It makes more sense. Even scientifically speaking, for what little science we can get out of it. And it was revolutionary in every time that the books were written. Like, they were revolutionary for their times. And so it's obvious that it's inspired. But there was a long time, until like very recently actually, that I was like, every word is exactly what God wanted to say, right?
Very literal interpretation.
I'm sorry.
I'm guessing you mean very literal. So it's a very literal interpretation.
I wouldn't take it like that. It was more of like some things can be figurative and some things can be literal and some things are both. But regardless of how they're supposed to be taken, like, the words that were handed down to us were exactly what God wanted us to have. And I actually still kind of believe that to a certain extent. And that's kind of where I'm getting at, just touching on a theological concept. I still believe that everything is good for teaching in the Bible, right? Everything that's there was handed down to us for the purpose of teaching us somehow. But my girlfriend sometimes brings up things that even I can't answer, because she's just got this like gigantic open third eye. She just sees everything spiritually. It's great. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but she always brings up this thing. There's a psalm somewhere where David talks about, smashing the infants of his enemies against the rocks or something like that. I forget which psalm it is, but
Old Testament is hardcore. Like, anyone reading it is.
My girlfriend's point. So go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, it's a part of the Bible that everyone wants that Bible is hardcore. I can't remember part of the Bible, but this guy leaves like the campsite, and he comes back and people are having sex, and he takes a spear and he rams it through people who are fucking. Like, he rams through both of them. This boom, and it's like, that's Game of Thrones level right there. That's Red Wedding level. Like, this is a hardcore book.
But that specific psalm that I was talking about, my girlfriend talks about it. She brings up the point, like, God would not be okay with that. There's no way that the Jesus that we worship is okay with smashing infants against a rock. And I don't have an answer to that. I mean, spiritually speaking, I don't. I mean, maybe I could come up with some legalistic answer for why that's okay, because these people were like, I don't know, completely. What's the libertarian Christian keyword that we always use?
Degenerate?
Yes, thank you, degenerate. These people were degenerate, so like they had to die. I mean, I have believed that in the past. I don't now, because that's not the gospel. That's not how Jesus acted towards people. Yeah. Then again, I'm also I've explained in the group my thoughts on the Trinity. So it's like, I believe that the God of the Old Testament was Jesus. Like, that was literally him. I think maybe we misunderstood, and maybe things were not recorded the right way, and maybe things that were recorded the right way weren't translated properly through history. Because I mean, have you ever? Full disclosure here, I studied linguistics in college. I know what it's like to translate from Hebrew to English. You don't.
Yeah.
Like, you You can, but like there's a lot of things. There's not a direct translation. So
Yeah.
and
It's like atonement, like the word atonement. The Greeks had the word atonement. We had no idea what it was. So we had to make a new word for atonement. The Greeks had to do the same for Hebrew. So now atonement, in our sense, is three languages removed from the original source. And it's like it's very hard to read the Bible. Like I got into a debate with this guy about biblical interpretations. My friend was Catholic, and he's like, his family sat down with him have a debate. Like, we're bringing all your family, like, sounds your wife's gonna be Catholic, and he called me up and like, okay, come over and we do this. So I went over there, and this guy was just sitting down to like, whenever someone I hear anything inserts about anything, I hold up my Bible and I question, I read word for word and check everything. And it's like, what language do you use? Hebrew?
Yeah, what
like,
language are you using?
I use the message, and it's like, okay, I'm not. I can't. You can read the message, but I don't think you should question every theological and religious document with the message. Like, I'm not taking you seriously anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, it not only are you translating from different languages, but like specifically Hebrew to Greek, I guess will be the next thing that the translators went to. Hebrew, a lot of the roots. I'm speaking for people who don't know. Like, it's almost like one noun in Hebrew can mean like 6 different things sometimes. So not only do you have to make a choice which one you translate into, and you have to do it by context from an ancient language that literally died and was resurrected, by the cultural Jews. Like, there's so much there that can be lost in translation. And then you have to factor in the fact that every religion in history has had an agenda to justify itself, right? And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, because it should be justifiable if you're going to believe it as a religion. But you have to remember that and realize that, like, this is how we get King James is the only valid version of the Bible. Like, this is how Baptists justify a lot of Baptists. I'm going to say everyone. That's how a lot of Baptists justify their form of religion, is like, well, our word is the only word, and it's like, no.
I mean, I'm talking to a Catholic. I mean, I got extra 7 books in the Bible I have to defend these people. This is biblical.
At least you're not an Ethiopian. Ethiopians have like 15.
That's insane to me. When it comes to biblical debates on like biblical inherency, what's book to go with, it is such a tricky, because like I would debate anybody on law topics. I'll debate libertarian policies versus leftists and everything that atheists and theists. I'll debate polytheism versus monotheism. I don't do interdenominational debates, because I'm other people. These are my brothers in Christ. I want to love these people and be friends with them because they're cool and we agree on so much. And I'm like, I'm not going to challenge your one denomination so heavily. Like, if you think the Bible has this many books, I'm not going to say you have the wrong Bible, because I'm a dick. And I just don't think it's actually like the things that I believe the Catholicism is true. I was Protestant, came to Catholicism. That's where I'm at. But like, if you're an anarchist or a libertarian Christian, I have much bigger things to worry about. Like, we have a lot bigger things to worry about when it comes to biblical inherency. Yeah, if you're going to justify bombing people, you're going to take the smoke. It's my call. You're going to take the Bible and say, I can use it to justify bombing so many Yemen. We have bigger problems whether or not you have the book of Maccabees in your Bible.
Exactly.
It's not as important. It's important, but it's not. What's more important? Hierarchy of needs here.
Yeah, and I think we were implicitly commanded by Jesus. I mean, he didn't say, "Don't fight about me," but he prayed that we would be united. That was one of the last things that we have in red letters in our red letter Bibles, is I pray to the Father that they would be united as you and I are united. And that kind of intimacy between brothers in Christ, brothers and sisters in Christ, is like, why are we fighting about this stupid shit? Like, you can have this. This is why I responded the way I did earlier in the group, because it was like, I love you guys. I'm not going to fight like this. We can talk, but like, I'm not going to be vitriolic about it.
Yeah.
We're literally not supposed to do that. We're supposed to do the opposite of that. So
the apostles had very little infighting. This is something Matt Erickson brought up on a podcast. It's like, when an idea is strong enough, people rally on that ideal and they work together on that ideal. And if Jesus is the strongest ideal and the strongest philosophy and everything, and the apostles really didn't have a lot of infighting. Like they knew they missed it, they went out and did it. You know, a lot of them to the death.
Well, this topic of interdenominational unity, it actually plays into the rest of my Christian journey, because I was in an interdenominational church. It was actually like my foundational church, and I explored a little bit more before and after that. So like after that Episcopalian phase for me, I dabbled in baptism for a while in the Baptist faith denomination. I went to a First Baptist church. I mean, I was a newbie Christian. I didn't know about denominations. I just wanted to go see Jesus. You know, that's really all I was there for.
I ain't a bad thing.
I mean, yeah, it's not. And then, unfortunately, I got away from church for a while. My parents couldn't take me, you know, because they were too busy, and I didn't have a car of my own.
You were still living. You were still living with your parents when you kind of went through this.
I was still with my parents.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting, actually.
And so I actually had a little bit of a falling away. I never renounced my faith or anything. It was never that dark. But you know, I started banging the girlfriend I had at the time. You know, like, and I basically surrendered every spiritual passion that I had. I stopped reading the Bible. You know, I still nominally believed in Jesus. You know, but life kind of sucked at the time, and that's not, the personal stuff is not really important right now. But you know, I just didn't have any support system. It was just me and Jesus at the time. And when the world pressed in on me, I had nothing to fall back on except my faith in my Bible. And it, for me, it wasn't enough at the time. I didn't know enough. I wasn't strong enough, you know. And so I from about the time I was 16 to 18 years old, I just drifted through life, lost, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what was true anymore. And then I moved down to North Carolina with my grandparents because me and my parents weren't getting along very well, and I wanted to go to school in state in the Carolinas anyway. I had missed, the Carolinas have always been home to me, so I wanted to come back, and I wanted.
They are beautiful. They are absolutely beautiful.
Both of them. So I did that, and I finished my senior year of high school. I actually went my whole senior year of high school in North Carolina, which would guarantee me in-state tuition. And in the process of going to that school down here, met another girl, and that girl actually took me to her church, which was a non-denominational church near my house. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I had a spiritual family around me, people who actually cared about my spiritual well-being. And I invested in that church. I spent 6 years there, from the time I was 20 to the time I was 26. Well, actually, it was even more than that. It was more like 7 or 8 years, because I was 19, and yeah. And I made so many friends there, and that church spurred me on so many different paths in my spiritual journey. I ended up going to a private Baptist college down here, or from your perspective up here. You may have heard of North Greenville University. I don't know. That's where I graduated from. But they're not Bob Jones University. They're not like the staunch Baptist, you know. They're more like the hippie Baptist, you know. So the fun Baptist. But anyway, and that's where my mind really started to open up to a lot of new spiritual concepts, and I started to be open-minded in my spiritual journey about just learning as much as I could. It almost felt again like I did when I first became a Christian, like I'd recaptured that initial fire, you know. And in that process, I actually discovered Messianic Judaism. Didn't even know it was a thing before that, but I discovered it just in my research, and it really intrigued me. And for a long time, that's kind of what I consider myself. I never really joined a Messianic synagogue, but their beliefs made the most sense to me. It was the best fusion of what I knew to be true about the New Testament and what I was learning about the Old Testament through my Bible college and through the church I was going to and all that. And it just everything just made sense finally. So when I met my girlfriend in 2018, at that point I had a falling out from the church that I've been going to. There were some personal issues, some drama that happened, and it unfortunately just fell apart. Started going to another non-denominational church, and I was nominally invested there. I still go to that church sometimes, and it's what I would consider my official church. But right now, I've actually been more, for the past couple of years, I've actually been more on a I want to, sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. I've been on a kick where I want to worship with other Christians and study the Bible in fellowship at my house or at their house or at a coffee shop. Or I really value the interpersonal relationships. And I think that's so much more important than having these gigantic 1,000-member congregations. Like whatever leadership we have in the church should know us all by name and should be invested in all of our lives. And we should be invested in everybody else's life too. You shouldn't go to church and not know the name of the person sitting across the room from you. Like that's not how Christians should be living in their life.
I grew up in a mega church. I know exactly what you're talking about. I grew up in a mega church of like thousands of. Here's a big group. We had a Starbucks. We were that kind of church, and I was there. And I was there from like from birth to April of this year.
Yeah,
probably January this year.
And it's actually interesting that you bring up Starbucks as a comparison, because the place that I go to the most right now for my spiritual fulfillment is the coffee shop that my libertarian friend Thomas runs in my new hometown in South Carolina. So my girlfriend works there. It's just everything makes sense right now as far as my spiritual journey.
If you're gonna ever start a podcast, you should do it with him at the coffee shop. Like he
might be into that actually.
That'd be a very I'd listen to it. That'd be a cool place to record. That'd be like libertarians drinking coffee or something.
Listen, I want to try to get him on Twitter because just for the sole purpose of getting him in this Christian anarchist chat, because like he will rock everybody's world. And I'm telling you, like some of the stuff, I don't know all the philosophies and stuff, so it's hard for me to argue with people sometimes because I don't know everything that I'm saying. I just know what I've been convinced of from the evidence that I've seen. But Thomas knows the evidence, and he can quote it to people, and he can say, this person said this, and this is where it was at, and this is the verse and passage. And it's not even just Bible stuff. It's like Josephus said this in this thing, and like the rabbis in this age said that, and I'm like, okay, he knows what he's talking about, I mean, maybe he's spouting bullshit, but I can't tell because I'm ignorant, But like, anyway, just to kind of ring it, put it all together right now. The interdenominational fights and the I have a unique perspective on that because I've been in so many denominations. I haven't been in just one all my life. I've seen so many different walks of Christian life, and it's so hard for me to be like, this is the only way to do it. I actually, it's weird how similar it is to my views on libertarianism, because it's like, you're not supposed to live life the way I do. You know, like you're your own person, do your own thing. And like God made you that way. You are a unique creature, and you should exercise your rights to be that unique creature, whether it's your politics and the way, whether you want to smoke a plant at your house, whether you want to bang a dude. Like let's not talk about like the theology behind that right now, but like whatever, do your thing. And even on the spiritual concepts, like worship God the way you see fit. It's not my responsibility to convince you that you're wrong. Like, I'm supposed to take care of you as a brother in Christ, but that means when you're poor, I give you the shirt off my back. That means when you need like to make your rent for the month, and I've got an extra $500, I'm gonna give you the extra $500.
I need to make my rent for the month. I need to make my rent for the month.
How much do you need?
None. I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, I always I look at it the same way I look at libertarians and moral philosophy. Like there's always they're all hierarchies of things, you know, like base level. I call it when it comes to laws, I call it the Aquinas principle. Should someone do prostitution? Probably not. Should someone have a gun pulled on them for doing prostitution? Absolutely not. No. You know, and it's the same principle where it's like with religion. It's like, do you believe it's wrong to do these 5 things? Yeah. Do you believe in God? Yeah. Do you believe this is like, yeah, okay. That's good. Low other things like secondary doctrines. Like I'm not a big believer in first and second. I don't think you should find a church that believes. How do I put this? I'm much more of a totalitarian guy, but I believe everything to be consistent. Well, I don't think you should find a church that matches what you believe. If it's true, you should go where truth is. You should not go with what you believe to be true. But at the end of the day, I'm not in a position, or I'm not knowledgeable enough to actually make those arguments, and all I'm going to do is make my side look bad. And so best I can do is be loving, be accepting, push back when I can. And at the end of the day, no, I'm not in a position to change minds. And if you are good on the 5 important things, I'm accepting of that, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm actually, when all this is over, I'm going to text the group chat and be like, so now we're all done arguing theology. Who believes in evolution?
Yeah.
Same here.
Honestly.
That's what. So I became Catholic. I was so tired of not believing in evolution.
There was a time. It's so weird. Like I went from fully believing in whatever science had to say because I wasn't a Christian and was barely even a theist. Went from believing in full evolution to like only the 6-day creation is true. Like no other interpretation whatsoever. That's just how it had to have happened. And even tried to justify it, like Ken Ham and all that.
Ken Ham. Is anyone I have a problem with is Ken Ham. Like I have very few people I just have really big problem with, but Ken Ham is one of them. Anyone who's going to offer you a devil choice and say you have to believe in the young earth or be an atheist, I can't stand that kind of attitude. Ken Ham.
Yeah. I didn't like it either. I watched a debate between him and my favorite Christian scientist, Hugh Ross is the guy's name, and it was just so obvious that Hugh was just schooling Ken Ham, because I don't even know what Ken Ham like did for a living before he was a preacher, but like Hugh Ross is an astrophysicist, right? Like that's what he does by trade, and not only that, he has autism, so like you can't argue with him, like he literally has autism. He's on the spectrum, but my point is like he was just kind of sitting there like calm, collected, just arguing data and facts. And Ken Ham was over here interrupting him and making like ad hominem, and I'm just like, dude, you're such a fucking joke right now. Shut up, And so I went from like that Ken Ham thing to listening to Hugh Ross talk. I mean, he was big in my Christian Science journey, and like he believes in old Earth creationism, so. There was a time where I was like, okay, I'm gonna compromise a little bit and go to like the young Earth creationism, where like, okay, yeah, we had 6 days, or maybe it was a couple thousand years, and then like human history started. No, now I've gone like full. Okay, the Bible and science are not at odds. Like they don't have to be at odds. Like we can believe in evolution and still be Bible believing Christians.
Amen.
I mean, there's not. Can you imagine? I mean, this is thinking about God from a human perspective right now. I realize that it's not theologically sound, but at the same time, God spent billions of years crafting this universe to run like a clock for us. I mean, I can't put it all into my argument right now because it's just too much. Look up Hugh Ross if you want to get the full picture. But like everything that came before us is leading up to this short period of time where human beings can have the most civilization and the most art and beauty and culture, and we can just flourish and multiply. And then like if we're going to extrapolate in the future, do you think global warming's bad? just wait and I mean, look at the Earth's cycles and see what's going to happen in the just in the next couple thousand years. I mean, life is going to become a lot harder for human beings if we last that long. You know what I'm saying? So everything has brought us to this point in history, and I just can't get over how awesome that is. And if you dig deeper into it, like the entire universe is crafted for us to live on this planet at this time. Like there's just there's no way that by the infinite probabilities this just happened by chance. No, it's too infinitesimally small.
No,
it takes more faith to believe in just atheistic evolution. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I agree with all of that. Almost all of that. I can't remember all of it you said because I was like, you say something, I go off on my own little tens in my head, and I jump back. I'm like, oh yeah,
you're good.
I've gotten to listening to podcasts to where I can just like pause and go off. Now when I'm doing a podcast, I still do the same thing. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, I'm in this one. I gotta come back.
It's so I've had the same experience this whole time. I've been like, wait a minute, like I can actually respond to things now. I don't have to just scream at the screen, you know?
I love podcasts. It is the most fun I've ever had. No, what started me on my whole Catholic journey, like to Catholicism, was science. Like I started watching Brett Weinstein videos, I started looking at like evolutionary scientists. I'm like, evolution is cool. It makes sense. It looks true. All the science of it is true. And I would be telling my Pentecostal friends, like, no, you can't believe any of that. You have to believe in young Earth. Universe is only 600 light years wide. All these other things. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And with Catholicism, they're very like, they don't say, like evolution. The Catholic Church says you can believe in evolution. All you have to do is believe that when we first became man, God gave us a soul. That's it. As long as you believe that God gave us a soul along the evolutionary path, you can believe in evolution. And it's like, that's easy. Yeah. I accept that. And like that's why I love Catholicism so much, is they don't have a lot of you can't believe this. They have a lot of like, you want to believe that, that's fine, as long as you have this stipulation that keeps true to the Catholic faith. And that's what I love. I love the Catholicism to me is like Thomas Aquinas loved to bring, like how you reach truth is, can you come to truth through faith and theology and logic and reasoning, and you can hit the same thing from two different angles, and it has to be true. And that's what Catholicism is like. It's a coming together of theology, faith, natural law, science, logic, reasoning to boom, there's the truth. And I love that's why I have so many these young Earth people. I brothers in Christ, I love you, but like some of them they say things I'm just like, you're making me look bad by association. Can you stop? Like you're making we have the same title. Stop making me look bad.
Yeah. I get that. It's funny that you talk about Catholicism like that, because there's a YouTuber that I follow. What is his name? Redheaded guy, really cool, Canadian. I forget what his name is right now.
Jimmy Atkin?
No, I don't. I'll send you his name after the podcast. I got to look it up real quick, but he made a really good point in one of his earliest videos about tradition within the Catholic Church. And I was at the time I was very anti-tradition, because I'd come from a non-denominational church, and like, I don't know, I was just in the mind space where I was against tradition. But then he made this point to me, like, the Catholic Church believes in their traditions and in their rituals and such, because like that's your ancestors passing down lessons that they've learned. Tradition is not just dry ritual, and that's what I thought it was, but no, like these are values that we have for a reason. And the Catholic Church, as the longest running human institution, like they have spent literally 1,500 years or more. I don't exactly know how long the Catholic Church has actually been around, but at least 1,500 years. Yeah, they spent at least 1,500 years, 1,500 years, like figuring out all this shit so that we don't have to now. Like we don't have to rehash a lot of this stuff, because they already hashed it out 1,000 times.
Have you ever read the book How the Catholic Church of Western Civilization by Tom Woods?
No, I need to.
Okay. I recommend Audible. A lot of these books I've referenced are included. Actually, soon I'm gonna have an affiliate link with Audible, so you can use my code. I get $5. So just wait for that. Some of the things that Catholic, like the periodic table, come from the Catholic Church. And one of the One of the coolest things about it is that there was a gap in the periodic table. Like there'd be a line and a gap, another substance. And the guy who made it said, God's universe is ordered. It has things. This is the map he gave us. There has to be something here. I don't know what it is yet, but I have faith we're going to discover it. So he lifted a gap. We discovered it and filled the gap. Like he had so much faith in God's ordered universe that when he was laying down the table of all things, he's like, something goes there. I don't know what yet, but something goes there. Like how mind-boggling. Yeah. Like it's just the level of faith you have to have in that. It's mind-boggling. I can't imagine having that much faith. Like it blows me away.
Yeah.
Well, we're running out of time because I got to start prepping for the next podcast. But before we go, I want to ask one more question.
Okay.
Pete Quinones and a lot of these post-libertarians bring up the atheist problem of libertarianism. And there's a lot of atheists in this group, a lot of atheists and libertarian. As someone who's, you and I both very Christian, what's your take on the whole, when you run into atheists or libertarians and they're very cringe, like no spaghetti monster, God's authoritarian?
Gotta be honest with you, I haven't run into very many of them, even on Twitter, which shocks me. I mean, when I was in that, GOP conservative traditionalist space, that's what I thought libertarians were. I thought they were libertines, and it wasn't until I realized that I was a libertarian already and didn't know it, that I started to pay attention to the few libertarians that I knew, and it was like, oh, wait a minute, like, yeah, he's okay with people doing drugs, but he doesn't actually do drugs. Yeah, she's okay with sex work, but she doesn't actually sell her body. It was so weird and eye-opening for me that, I mean, yeah, there are some libertarians that do that stuff, and yes, every once in a while you come across this dickhead that wants to be a dickhead atheist on Twitter, but like, there's so many more dickhead atheists from the Democrat Party, and there's so many more dickhead atheists even in the Republican Party than in the Libertarian Party. So it's like par for the course, I guess. I don't know. Listen, I'm not going to say that the LP is not, as a whole, somewhat hostile towards traditional beliefs. I mean, that's why the abortion plank is what it is in the LP. I don't, for what it's worth, I don't think that the abortion plank as it stands in the LP is very libertarian, because the most fundamental right is the right to life. Without it, no other rights exist. But my point in saying that is like, I guess there's an atheism problem in the LP, and it needs to be dealt with, but it's not going to be that hard to deal with, especially if people like you and me, Christians who are libertarians, make our voices heard within the party, and we argue for our positions, and we say, listen, there is a way to do this. Like, and when I first became a libertarian, one of the things that actually kept me from joining for a long time was the abortion argument. And I don't want to hash that out too much, but when I realized that I was a libertarian and I started criticizing the LP for its poor strategy, I was like, listen, there's so many disaffected Trump supporters right now. Like 60 million people think the election was stolen from them, and like 90% of them think that abortion is murder. So maybe you should re-examine your abortion plank and see if there's a libertarian way for like you to reach out to those people somehow. Because there's 60 million of them, and half of them are probably lean libertarian already. And that was actually the biggest thing. I encountered more anti-GOP libertarians than I did atheist libertarians when I first started being exposed to the party. And I think it's because the GOP uniquely scares libertarians, because they're superficially similar. And what I mean by that is they both claim to believe in liberty and freedom and all that. But the GOP makes the deal with the devil, and goes, they seek the state to enforce liberty on people, so I don't know. I guess my whole point with this past couple minutes of talking here, rambling, is just, is there an atheism problem? Yes, but it's easy to deal with if we make our voices heard. And I think that if we're true libertarians, we'll learn to live with one another. And there's not very many things that actually stop us from coming to an agreement. The abortion thing is one, but my biggest response to the abortion thing right now is to make it obsolete. I don't believe in banning it. And that rocks GOP heads. Like, it just blows their minds when I'm like, yeah, I don't support an abortion ban. I think it's murder, but I don't think we should ban it. I think we should make it obsolete instead, because that will have more effect and that will actually work instead of trying to ban it. But,
prohibition doesn't work. I mean, that guy Norman Young was like, prohibition work. You try to get on drugs. It's like, what the fuck you been the last 20 years?
Yeah,
like,
but I think if incoming Christians, because there aren't very many of us in the party that I know of, if
it's
Christians
weird about that too.
in,
You think about it, like the biggest ones, like people. The Mises Institute was founded by a Catholic. Tom Woods is the biggest libertarian podcast, Catholic. There's Daniel Tarantino, biggest Fox News libertarian, Catholic. It's like there's a lot of these really religious people, and the party is not like the party and the messengers. There's a huge disconnect with the messengers are all religious, the best ones, and the party is all for the atheists. And it's like there's a weird disconnect there.
Yeah. I think if we could have some sort of, I don't think we can call like a whole convention or something, but over time, as quickly as possible, because we don't have a lot of time in this country right now. If atheist libertarians and Christian libertarians can come together and say, listen, these are the issues that we disagree on. These are the issues that state by state we're going to make a decision on. Here, us libertarians in South Carolina, we're going to say that abortion is murder, and we're going to try to make it obsolete. We're not going to ban it. But we're going to try to make it obsolete. And that's actually what I'm going to, like, practically speaking, in real IRL, this is what Andrew, am doing in South Carolina in the Libertarian Party, is I'm trying to make abortion obsolete in South Carolina. But right across the border in Georgia, or all the way across the country in California, I'm sure the Californian libertarians are going to have a little bit of a different perspective on abortion, And guess what? It's not my job to decide what they do in California. It does not affect me whatsoever. So they should do what they want to do, and there shouldn't be one libertarian plank across the whole party about abortion of all things. Like, let the state affiliates decide their policies. Let people migrate and freely associate. It's just the solutions are so easy here. And we can just learn to live with each other, because there's so many more important fights going on in this damn culture.
Well, I think that's a good note to end on. Plug your Twitter and plug anything you want to plug or recommend. At
Real TCPL on Twitter. Sorry, this is the first time I've ever plugged myself.
It'll be in the description.
Like I've said, third time now, follow my girlfriend at Daisy and Sage. She needs followers because she's new. Also, the coffee shop that my buddy Thomas, Libertarian Christian, who we need to get on Twitter, his coffee shop has a page at Wisefire Cafe. So give them all a follow. Try to keep the politics off the cafe thing, because he's trying to grow the business, and politics is bad for growing business sometimes. So, but you can tweet at me and my girlfriend all you want. We'll talk with you. We love you. We're Christians, so we're cool like that.
Well, everybody, this has been another episode of the Catholic Libertarian Podcast. I am your host, Caleb Brown. Go follow me on Twitter. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell for future videos. I got a lot of guests coming on next month, and I hope you all are ready for it, because I got a lot of people who are kind of hated right now by libertarians. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. And I got Stefan Kinsella coming on to explain intellectual property. So if you ever want to know what that is and felt too embarrassed to ask, I'm going to ask all dumb questions for you. So everyone has a good weekend, and have a good night.